Hello and welcome to this week's SHU Sports Report. We got snowed in last week, so we are back to get you caught up in all the Sacred Heart sports action. I'm Dan Gardella.
And I'm Anthony Zaccone. Dan, spring is finally here, and hopefully all the snow we've been having will finally go away for good.
Hopefully we can get some actual spring weather as our spring sports teams look to continue their seasons.
That is right. After their trip to Louisiana and Georgia just about 2 weeks ago, Sacred Heart Baseball found themselves back in the Northeast, and they had to deal with some lingering winter weather conditions. The baseball team went 2-4 over the past 2 weeks with a solid win over Villanova, and they picked up their first conference win over Mount St. Mary's. In the game against Villanova, Sacred Heart went on to defeat the Wildcats after a strong fifth inning put the Pios up on the Wildcats. In the fifth, sophomore Jake Frasca led the inning off with a walk, and later on in the inning, co-captain Cody Doyle ripped an RBI triple down the line. After the triple, sophomore Stephen Tebow stepped up and knocked Doyle in to give SHU a 2-0 lead. Sacred Heart would tack on another run later on in the game and defeat the Wildcats with a final of 3-2. Cooper Thompson picked up his first win on the season as he threw 5 innings, only allowing a single hit and no runs, and Jackson Alden picked up his second save on the young season. Sacred Heart looked to rebound after 3 losses in a row, but found themselves battling the weather. A 3-game away series with Mount St. Mary's turned into a doubleheader played in Darien. The first game was a close 7-6 loss, but the Pioneers rallied back in Game 2. The Pios had an offensive outburst in this contest. After tying the game up at 2, Mount St. Mary's came back in the third and took a 5-2 lead. The Pioneers were able to storm right back with a huge 6-run bottom of the 6th. Tebow tied the game for the Pios at 5 with his second RBI of the game. Next up, senior Dan Schock had a huge opportunity to create a decent lead as he stepped up with the bases loaded. And Schock did not disappoint. He roped a 3-run double, putting the Pios up 8-5. The Pios would go on to win this contest 11-5. Senior James Tubble threw a solid 5 2/3 innings, struck out 5, and out of the bullpen, junior Baylor Sundahl was purely dominant as he allowed just a single hit in 3 1/3 innings. The Pioneers will resume conference play as they host NEC foe Wagner for a 3-game series that starts today at 3 p.m.
Moving on from one diamond to the other, the Sacred Heart softball team looked to build on their 2-game winning streak going into the Hampton Inn BWI UMBC Dog Pound Invitational in Baltimore, Maryland. During the Dog Pound Invitational, the Sacred Heart softball team went 5-0, defeating LaSalle, UMBC, and St. Peter's while topping Drexel twice throughout the tournament. During the week of the 19th, junior pitcher Kristen McCann earned NEC Pitcher of the Week, as she had her 4th shutout of the season in a 4-0 win in Game 1 against Drexel, and only allowed 4 runs in 17 innings while striking out 22 batters in 4 appearances. In that same week, senior Lauren Delgadillo earned NEC Player of the Week after her performance in Baltimore. Delgadillo hit 2 home runs along with a triple, scoring 8 runs and 4 RBIs. After a long weekend of their final tournament play, the Pioneers held their season opener at Pioneer Park this past weekend, going 1-1 in a doubleheader versus UMass Lowell. In Game 1, the Riverhawks walked away with the win after an 8th inning that produced 2 runs to take the win 3-1. In Game 2, the Pioneers got the bats going in the second to take a 4-0 lead, and that lead would hold true, giving the Pioneers their first home victory 4-1. After the break, we have more on softball as our very own Chris Caiozzo sits down with co-head coach Elizabeth Lucky.
Welcome back to the SHU Sports Report. I'm Chris Caiozzo, and we have co-head coach Elizabeth Lucky with us here on this week's Coach's Corner. Coach, thanks for coming down.
Sure, it's great to, thanks for asking me.
Let's get things started right up. You guys started non-conference schedule with a 14-6 record. What were some things you noticed in the early success?
I just think we're a lot of confidence. We have a upperclassmen as well as 7 freshmen, and I think that mixture is really gone well together. I think the trips that we've taken to Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina in a bus, I think the bonding has been terrific, and those are long trips, but the kids have enjoyed it, and I think they're playing with some swag, and they're looking forward to our league starting off next weekend.
Cool. A 5-0 record during the final tournament led to a pretty remarkable accomplishment for both you and assistant coach Pam London, earning your 600th and her 250th win. What has it been like to see the program grow over the last 30 years?
Well, first of all, she's the co-head coach. And she did that. We decided full-time in 2006, 2007. Pam and I have been coaching together for 30 years. And I have 600 wins. So does she have 600 wins unofficially. But officially, she hit a milestone as a co-head coach with 250, which is wonderful. We've been fortunate. We put together some really, really good teams. And not just good teams, but good people. And that's our goal. Not only do we want to have success on the field, but success in the classroom and success, when they leave us and they continue to support our program. We get constant texts and good, well wishes and congratulations from all of our alumni from 25 to 30 years ago to last year. So it's been great to have that continued connection.
Cool. The team has a strong nucleus of upperclassmen. Like you mentioned, you brought in 7 freshmen.
Yeah.
How has the bonding been going on with the upperclassmen and the
It's been great. They have a good time together. They share rooms together. They've spent a lot of time together. And I think the success that those upperclassmen had last year, making it to the NEC tournament, finishing second in the regular season, they want to get back there and they want to, possibly win the league championship, which I think we would have a good shot as long as, we continue to play like we're playing. We play with the confidence, the swag. They're working very hard. They don't take a day off, and we're going to see what's going to happen.
Lastly, NEC play opens this weekend on the road against CCSU and Wagner. What are some of the goals for league play this year?
Well, it's certainly to get back to that tournament, and I think there's a lot of parity in our league. Anything can happen on any given day, so we're hoping that the confidence that they have had since we started this season, with our record of 15-9. That is going to propel them to do well in the league and continue to do what we're doing. And it's not one person that's taking us over the edge. It could be any person on that day. Our pitching is outstanding. Kristen McCann has already been named NEC pitcher 3 times this season.
She threw a couple no-hitters
She threw 1 no-hitter in Albany. We played Albany at Winthrop tournament. And then Emily Orozco just finished a game with 15 strikeouts against UMass Lowell. And the 2 freshmen, Colleen Walsh and Cheyenne Fennell, are coming along. So with the pitching, strong pitching, some...
And I'm sure they're teaching the freshmen.
Yes. And they're only juniors, so we get them back next year.
That's all the time we have for this week's Coach's Corner. Good luck with upcoming conference play, and congratulations to you and Coach London on the wins. For more Sacred Heart Sports, we have Ryan Toohey standing by with this week's Update Corner. Ryan?
Welcome to this week's edition of the Update Corner. I'm Ryan Toohey, and we're going to get things started off with women's bowling. The team competed at the Music City Classic in Smyrna, Tennessee from March 16th to the 18th. Out of 32 teams competing, SHU took 8th place, going 7-6 overall. Senior Amanda Nardiello led the team with the highest overall frame average of 21.56. She hit a strike in 75 of her 133 attempts and was also 31 for 31 on single pin attempts. Nardiello was named the NEC Bowler of the Week for her performance. 1 week later, the Pios were in Howell, New Jersey, competing for the Northeast Conference Championship. After falling short last year against Fairleigh Dickinson, the Pioneers look to redeem themselves in this year's championship game against St. Francis U. In the best-of-7 Baker, SFU took a commanding 3-1 lead through the first 4 games. However, SHU would rally back to push a 7th game, but would fall short to SFU. Despite losing the championship game, Craigling was named the NEC Coach of the Year for the 3rd consecutive season. Nardiello and junior Dominique Newton were named to the All-NEC First Team, while sophomore Tori Boughton received Second Team honors. The bowling team now looks ahead to the USBC Intercollegiate Team Championships in Lincoln, Nebraska, beginning on Thursday, April 19th. And now we'll move on to men's fencing, where junior Dante Centeno represented Sacred Heart University in the NCAA Championships. Centeno competed in the Epi events, and he placed 16th out of 24 competitors with a -4 indicator score in touches. Overall, with Centeno being the lone representative, SHU placed 21st overall. Now moving from the fencing strips to the tennis courts, both the men's and women's tennis teams have continued their spring seasons. They both traveled to Hofstra on Friday, March 16th, and hosted St. Peter's at Yale on Sunday, March 18th. The men's team defeated St. Peter's on Sunday 5-2, thanks in part to a 3-0 sweep of doubles matchups and singles matchup wins from freshman Seiji Hosokawa, sophomore Chris Sauce, senior Francisco Del Valle, and Chapman. The team then took on Mount St. Mary's in Hershey, Pennsylvania this past Saturday. It was a back-and-forth battle between both teams, but ultimately the Pios fell short in this one, losing 4-3. The men's team's next matchups will be on Wednesday, April 4th at Fairleigh Dickinson. The women, on the other hand, also had success. They won 4-3 against Hofstra as they took 2 out of 3 in doubles matches and 3 out of the 6 singles matches. But that was just a prelude to their matchup against St. Peter's, though, on Sunday. They dominated the Peacocks, shutting them out 7-0. Freshman Kira Tobia, sophomore Brianne Loria, and junior Olivia Podzabirski won both singles and doubles matches on the day. The team also took on Mount St. Mary's on Saturday and came away with the win 6-1. Their next matchup will also be at Fairleigh Dickinson on Wednesday, April 4th. And that's all the time we'll have for this week's Update Corner. I'm Ryan Toohey, and after the break, we will have more from Dan and Anthony at the desk.
Welcome back to the SHU Sports Report. We have just a few more sports to go over before we wrap up this week's show.
One of those sports is men's lacrosse, as they've had a busy 2 weeks since the last time we covered them. Men's lacrosse looked to turn things around after a heartbreaking loss against Hartford. That path started on the road against then 17th ranked Robert Morris. Despite being up on the Colonials by 2 going into the half, a strong Robert Morris second half would propel the Colonials to a 12-8 win over the Pioneers. Junior Max Tuttle led the Pioneers in goals with 2 on the day. The Pioneers then looked to stop their 2-game skid at home as they hosted the Bulldogs of Bryant University. Once again, a poor second half performance would cause the Pioneers to walk away with their 3rd loss in a row. The Pioneers look to end their 3-game losing streak this weekend as they host Mount St. Mary's at noon on Saturday before the women's lacrosse game versus Brown at 3 p.m.
The men's lacrosse team still has some time to turn their season around as the top 4 teams in the conference make it to postseason action.
Another team looking to bounce back in their conference season is men's volleyball.
That's right, Dan. Men's volleyball had 3 games over the past week, looking to improve on their season in the second half of their schedule. The Sacred Heart men's volleyball team went 2-1 on the week, with their lone loss coming from EIVA conference foe Harvard. In the 2 wins, the Pios defeated Alderson Brodus this past Thursday. This was a hard-fought contest the entire way, but Sacred Heart was able to hold off Alderson Brodus and defeat them 3-1. In the final set, the Pioneers found themselves up 13-6 and put the finishing touch on ABU the rest of the way, as it was a dominant finish for the Pioneers. Sacred Heart won the first set 29-27, the third set 25-16, and the final set 25-17. Redshirt junior Taylor Bloomquist led the Pioneers with 11 total kills on the day. Senior Tyler Lee recorded a monster 36 assists for the Pioneers. The Pios then traveled to Harvard, where they were firing right out of the gates, taking the first set in extra points 26-24. Unfortunately, their momentum was cut short as the Crimson took the following 3 sets by no less than 3 points each. Looking to bounce back from the conference loss, the Pioneers hosted Erskine College on Monday night. The Pioneers made quick work of the Flying Fleet, sweeping Erskine 3-0. Once again, Bloomquist was a force on the court, leading the Pioneers with 6 service aces. The Pioneers totaled 16 service aces throughout the evening, allowing them to walk away with the victory. Up next for the Pioneers is a huge EIVA weekend as they host St. Francis U on Thursday and Penn State on Friday. Guys, be sure to get on down to the Pitt Center and cheer them on as they look for some much-needed conference wins.
That'll do it for this week's show. Be sure to tune in next week for all of your SHU sports action, highlights, and more. From all of us here at the SHU Sports Report, I'm Dan Gardella.
And I'm Anthony Saccone. Thank you for watching.